Welcome into Giants Postgame Live, presented by Mercedes-Benz, the official luxury automobile of the New York Giants. I'm Madelyn Burke, joined by two-time Super Bowl champion David Diehl, Super Bowl champion Amani Toomer, and fellas, Giants went down to South Beach, fell to the Miami Dolphins 20-9, Miami's fifth straight win after starting the season with 7 losses. But I mean, we got to talk about the end of this game, right? Yeah. I mean, that fourth quarter, the Giants are down 17-6. And it seemed like there wasn't quite a sense of urgency with 8 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, there's 8:42 left in the game. You're moving down. You have your timeouts that you can utilize. But you also have to remember the sequence coming out of it. They almost had delay of games 2 series before that they've had to utilize timeouts as well. And then when you sit there and you think about it, 8:42 left in a 2-possession game, you've got to hurry. You've got to get in and out of the break. You can't even huddle as much as you want. And we sit there and we look at a 1st and 10 where they hurried up to throw an incomplete pass. It took 42 seconds off of the clock. And when we talk about this as being a game of inches and time, and it's a 2-possession game, you've got to have a sense of urgency, and you've got to get in and out of huddle, or not even huddle at all at that point, in order to build up and get some momentum in the football game.
Yeah, they should have been in their 2-minute package.
Yes.
Absolutely, because even the body language, for those guys getting up to the line of scrimmage, the pace of the game has to pick up at that point. Receivers running back to the line of scrimmage. It has to be a hurry-up situation if it's 2 possessions, because you know you're going to have to score and get the ball back again and score again. So it just didn't seem very organized from that point of view. They needed, if they really wanted to win the game, and if winning was their intent, they needed to play to win and not play to just go through the motions, because what it looked like to me at 8 minutes left, they're going through the motions and not giving themselves an opportunity to actually win a game.
And it was tough, coming into this game. Daniel Jones out with a neck injury. Mike Glennon got the start. I know we've got his stats here to show you here for this game. But Mike Glennon coming in, QB2, getting the call to quarterback 1, 23 of 44 for 187 pass yards. No touchdowns, 1 interception. That interception, of course, came early in the game. He started off 8 for 8, throws a pick. Things kind of got a little wonky after that, we'll say. But what do you make of what we saw from Glennon today?
I mean, 44 attempts is unbelievable for a backup quarterback that probably didn't play that didn't take all the first-team reps. Towards the end of the game, when you get tired and when things get a little bit more difficult in terms of executing, it just didn't look crisp. A lot of throws that were just out off the body cylinder from the wide receivers, the tight ends. It just didn't look smooth. And I feel like it comes down to the running game. The fact that the running game couldn't, balance this offense out was one of the reasons why, it ultimately comes to a loss. You're leaning on a quarterback that doesn't really have a great opportunity to carry the team by himself.
And I think when you look at the turnover factor and only 1 interception, there were a lot that the Miami Dolphin drops. You think about the one where he tried to force into double coverage to Kenny Golladay in the end zone. They were very fortunate that one got dropped. But as you continued to look at this offense and going back to the fourth quarter, the utilization of not being able to substitute in and out, the play clock going down, having to use timeouts, then taking a delay game, and then having 2 sacks back-to-back and one being on the 3rd and 23, you just can't function as an offense like that on the road.
It just doesn't seem like this team is really ready to win. You got to put yourself in position to win, and all the things that you just said are situations that have nothing to do with the play on the field. It has everything to do with the coaches and with with getting the players to focus in the right direction to win a football game. And they didn't have the opportunity to do that today. And that's one of the reasons why it makes this game so tough to watch, is because you're watching a team that just schematically are not giving themselves a chance to compete and win a football game.
And going with that schematically, 16 third downs today, 10 of them were 9 or more yards. When you have a backup quarterback, you don't have a complement run game, and you have that blitz package by Brian Flores where they have 7 up at the line of scrimmage, those are battles that you're not going to be able to dig yourself out of consistently.
Yeah, that 3-4 defense is very difficult, especially when you get in 3rd and long situations. When they get it, they have all their the linebackers up, and you don't know which one is going to come. It just makes it very difficult, especially got a backup quarterback as well. And a lot of not to mention all the receivers that are not in the game. it's just a situation that was a tough situation that they had to overcome, and they just it looked very, very bad today.
Yeah, you mentioned Sterling Shepard out with that quad injury, Kadarius Toney out with that quad injury. Kenny Golladay got banged up in that first half, was able to come back and play, but he was dealing with a rib injury, so that was an issue as well. But also, you know, they did have moments where they got the running game going. There was, you know, that drive in which Saquon had, you know, a 23-yard run followed by the Devontae Booker 16-yard run. As we look at Saquon Barkley's stats on the day, 11 rushes for 55 total yards on the ground, a 5-yard average, but that 23-yard one's the long. But this was this drive that they had to settle for a field goal yet again, the second field goal that Graham Gano kicked. And when the run is working so well for you to get down the field, but you get into the red zone, why pivot to the pass? What difference does that red zone defense show you that you say, okay, this is what we're going to change up? Or why does it make it harder to run in that space?
I just think the real estate, you know, when you don't have a lot of ground to cover, it just makes it easier for the defense to load up the box. Running in the red zone is one of the hardest things to do. That's why when quarterbacks get an opportunity, that's why quarterbacks, what they get paid for is red zone and third down. And because they find ways to slip in balls, they find ways to move the ball down the field in a short space. And that's kind of why the red zone is such a difficult area. But when you look at those numbers, Saquon, I mean, he had 11 carries for 55 yards. That's 5 yards a carry. If you take that, you give them, extrapolate that out for another, maybe 10 carries, 11 carries. That is a decent ball game, and that's not only going to help, the offense balance itself out, but it's also going to give the defense a little bit of rest because they're not going to be on the field for as long, and you're going to control the time of possession, which the Giants did not do a good job of today.
And to go along with it, you're hearing this from an offensive lineman. You have to throw right now when you're in the red zone, when you're looking at this offense. When you see the incapability of opening up holes, whether it's Booker, whether it's Saquon Barkley, having to bounce the ball outside because there's nothing inside. And then when they did have plays where they were loaded up in the box and they had people to where they could work the perimeter, they didn't set the edge, and then everything gets forced back right to where the flow of the defense is. That's why when you sit here and you continue to look at this game, for an offensive line that's struggling, the only thing that's going to get them out of it is being able to run the football.
Yeah, it's offensive lineman, just like I'm not telling you anything to do, but you love to run the ball and get off on those defensive linemen because you use your size to wear them down a little bit, so when they do get a chance to rush, they're not as fresh.
And having that threat of the run makes the passing game a bit easier too. All right, we got a lot more coming up on the program, but first want to remind you that guests of our post-game show receive a gift certificate to Ben & Jack's, located on 44th Street in Manhattan. From the celebrated porterhouse to finer seafood, Ben & Jack's will surpass your expectations of what a steakhouse should be. After the break, we're going to hear from head coach Joe Judge and much more as Giants post-game live presented by Mercedes-Benz continues after this. Hey there, Big Blue fans. In this week's Giants post-game live watch and win sweepstakes, one lucky fan can score an autographed football signed by wide receiver Kenny Golladay. Enter now by scanning the QR code on the screen or going directly to msgnetworks.com to sign up. And don't forget to include this week's keyword, play action, all one word, play action. Sign up now before it's too late, and good luck playing this week's Watch and Win sweepstakes. See, Amani's got the football in his hand right there.
I notice he's being stingy with it. He doesn't want to give it to the old lineman over here. Imagine that, a wide receiver wanting the football.
No, I don't want it. give me the damn ball, right?
This is like his comfort zone right here. It's your security blanket. Makes you feel safe. As we welcome you back to Giants post-game live, presented by Mercedes-Benz. Giants went down to Miami, fell to the Dolphins 20-9. We've talked quite a bit about the offensive struggles that we've seen, not just in this game, but in this season. But the defense.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, look at this. Look at what a good teammate we've got here. We'll put this front and center for you to remind you guys, watch and win. We got a lot of prizes for you throughout the season. But we want to talk about the defense a little bit, because the defense has been such a strength for this Giants team. Every game this season, except for today, they've had at least one takeaway. This is the first time this season they haven't been able to have a turnover, a fumble recovery, an interception of whatnot. But there was some positive. We saw a lot of pressure still with the defense. What did you see from the defense in today's game?
I thought the defense played well enough to win this football game. If you think coming out at halftime, 10-3 after they had that big drive right before half, They forced them to punt their first 4 possessions in that game and gave the Giants the football at the 38-yard line that, once again, getting down to the red zone, settled for 3 instead of scoring a touchdown. So when you think about the Giants' defense, I think that they played well enough. Obviously, the takeaways didn't factor into this football game the way that we'd like them to, but when you don't play complementary football on the offensive side of the ball to the defense, that's where you end up in a game like this.
I think Tua played a great game in terms he threw the ball in some areas and made some critical first downs down the stretch that you have to make in a close game. I think the Giants defense played well enough, just like you said, to win. They were in position but didn't make the big play to get off of the field. And that's when I look at this team, this situation. You know, they didn't get their turnover. You know, we broke the rookie sack record, you know, so that was a big thing for the Giants, but still they played well enough. The bottom line, they played well enough to win the game, but the one difference is the Dolphins wide receivers and skill positions did exactly what they needed to do to keep the ball and to move the chains and to dominate down the stretch. And that was ultimately the difference. Gesicki made some great plays. Parker made a great play over on the sideline. And it wasn't like he wasn't covered. Bradbury had him covered. The back shoulder throw really gave him an opportunity to win the game.
Their receivers made key catches in key moments. Our receivers dropped the ball or was an inaccurate throw.
Yeah.
And we got to give credit to the quarterback pressure as well. Azeez Ojulari, 6.5 sacks on the season, a rookie record for the Giants. Also, Jalen Phillips for the Dolphins, 8.5 sacks on the season. He set a rookie record for the Dolphins. All these records on the pressure. All right, we're going to send it down to Miami, where we'll hear from Bob Papa, Carl Banks, and Howard Cross, who were on the call for this game, fellas.
All right, guys, I know there's a lot to unpack here. Look, it's like a broken record. We talk about it every week. You look at these numbers since the start of last season offensively. It's the worst in the NFL in every important category, including points per game. And, Carl, this team is so fragile in the sense that you miss an open guy, you drop a pass on first down, they just can't overcome it, and I don't know how it's going to get fixed.
Well, the operation is completely broken. Even with a backup quarterback, there were plays to be had out there, and just the lack of attention to detail and the urgency of the moment just wouldn't allow them to do it. That, in turn, tells me that this is a broken operation.
Howard, you're on the sideline during the game. For the life of me, I can't figure out, you know, you're down 2 scores, you got to go quick, and the Giants were kind of running their offense with 6 minutes to go in the game as if it was the second quarter.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to criticize or say anything crazy, but I don't know. It seems like to me you've been a 2-minute offense at that point in the game, trying to get something done, even with the quarterback being, you know, in that position. You got to go 2 minutes. You got to keep going. Also, you got to make plays that come to you. You can't drop the ball when it's in the right country. You can't run it. You're going to the flat, and that's a run. It's an extended run. You got to make plays. I don't know how they're going to do it.
We saw Mike Glennon zipping the ball around early in the game. You were down on the field as you were doing the radio, and you said there was a noticeable change in him, what appeared to be physically, as this game wore on.
He started walking around like I do in the morning when I get up before I get in the shower. Like he was limping, clenching one fist. I don't know if he tweaked something, pulled something. But you could notice that there was not as much zip on the ball, and then he was starting to try to like direct the ball, almost like throwing darts instead of like snapping at the guys.
Carl, they talk about, you know, it's got to be fixed. We're going to go back to work. Listen, the people that are watching this show are hardcore Giant fans. They've heard that for the better part of the last 8 years. Is there anything they can do drastically to jumpstart this thing?
It's called show and prove. That's all. You just got to show and prove. There's no more talking about it. It's broken, and they've got to fix it. Only those guys can do it. There's still games left on the schedule, and they've got to figure out how not to lose each one of those.
All right, Giants lose here in Miami. First time they've ever lost to the Dolphins in Miami. They're now 4-1 down here, and there's a lot to dissect about this football team and how they can get it turned around over the final couple games of the season as we send it back to the studio.
Thanks, fellas. Absolutely a lot more to dissect, and we will be back after this short break with much more. We're going to hear from head coach and more as Giants Postgame Live presented by Mercedes-Benz continues after this. Time now for our scoring drive of the game, brought to you by Investors Bank. Get the official New York Giants checking account only from Investors Bank. Visit investorsbank.com/Giants for more details. For the scoring drive of the game, we take you to the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, the Giants are trailing, but it was 10 plays, 25 yards, took 3 minutes and 43 seconds off the clock, capped by a 51-yard field goal by Graham Gano. Gano breaks his own record for the most 50 or more yard field goals in a single season with 6 on the year, as he puts the Giants up to 17-9 on the scoreboard. Investors Bank scoring drive of the game. Graham Gano has been quite a constant for this Giants team, and they, unfortunately have had to settle for field goals a little bit more than I think they'd like to. But having a kicker that is that reliable, how much of a sigh of relief is that for a team?
It's definitely a sigh of relief for your offense that, if you get on the other side of the 50, that you have an opportunity to put points on the board. But I think Graham Gano being the drive of the day just goes to solidify what the game was like in Miami right now.
Absolutely. You don't want your kicker to be your safety blanket.
No.
I feel like if you have too good of a kicker, then once the offense gets to the point where they're in field position, they kind of relax instead of going forward and trying to put the ball in the end zone. And I think, it's one of those things where, something that may be good may give yourself a little bit too much comfort to where you're not going for it going for to the end zone.
Well, we're going to hear a little bit more about it because head coach Joe Judge is addressing the media at the podium. Let's send it down to Miami.
All right, guys. First off, give credit to that team. Obviously, they went out there and did enough to win the game. There's a lot of things that I saw today in the way we played, a lot of things that are moving in the right direction, a lot of things I'm very pleased with in terms of how we competed. We were able to make some stops at critical moments, able to make some good, decisions. A lot of guys stepped up in different situations, but ultimately we got to make more plays, got to take advantage of the opportunities in front of us, and got to make sure that we capitalize on opportunities when we have a chance to go ahead and make big-time, swings in the game. I'm pleased with a lot of things in the team. It's going to be a good week for us to get together as a team, go out to the West Coast, work together, reset ourselves a little bit, and keep moving forward. That being said, open up to any questions you have right now.
Joe, what do you say that things are moving in the right direction offensively? What did you see tonight that makes you think things are moving in the right direction offensively?
I think right now there's some opportunities we have as far as getting the ball down the field, pushing down the field, making plays. I like some of the plays that Evan was able to come up with, some of the contested catches Kenny was able to come up with. Some of the things Booker's doing with some catch and runs on the screen. Kyle Rudolph's doing a good job with some of the balls getting vertical, producing first downs. There's a lot of things moving in the right direction in terms of that. I think our pass protection as a whole, although there's some plays obviously we got to look at and keep on improving on, but I'm encouraged by some of the things we're seeing out there in terms of how that group's progressing. We got to keep on doing a better job overall as a team.
Something about capitalizing on opportunities. I'm sure that 3rd and 2 pass is one that's going to keep you up at night.
Well, there's a number of plays out there today, Tom, and we got to do a better job of taking advantage of all opportunities. We have to understand is the margin for error in this league is so small, okay, and it's so tight. And you look at that team today. We talked about Brian's done a really good job. Right now he's in year 3. He's got a lot more things moving in terms of the flow of the organization. And what he's doing a good job of is they really pushed through that 7-game losing streak. And talking before the game, there's such a tight margin. We watch all those games they came away with tough losses, and you say it's a play here, it's a play there. And that's really the story in every game. And you've got to make sure you take advantage of the opportunities when they come your way. So when you have an opportunity to go ahead and extend a drive, get points in the red area, whatever it may be, get a turnover on defense, capitalize on something in the kicking game, you got to go ahead and you got to make the play.
It looked like they were kind of clogging up on Saquon a little bit. You didn't really get a chance to get him off today. What were you seeing?
Well, look, that's one of the top run defense in the league for a reason. That's kind of the way they play. They're going to load that box. They're going to play a lot of man defense. They played a lot of cover 3 buzz against us or cover 3 dog. On early downs, went 12 personnel. That was kind of how the plan declared. I thought the offensive staff did a good job kind of making some adjustments on the second half, getting some things off the boots, getting the ball started out there in the flat and taking advantage of these guys loading the box and packing it. But obviously their priority as a defense was to stop the run, try to go ahead and make us force with the throws. They played a lot of tight man right there. We saw our share of that blitz 0 coverage. Large part of the game plan was how to handle blitz 0. And when you play a team that's going to play that much of it, there's going to be opportunities in the game that you got to take advantage of. There's going to be times they make plays as well. That's just the ebb and flow of playing a team like that. Thought when we handled it the right way, got the ball out there and had some productive plays against that 0 look and made some plays pushing forward, that was encouraging. I saw Mike do a lot of good things at the line of scrimmage as far as identifying what the look was, facilitating the offense, getting the ball out. And I thought Mike did a good job of pushing the ball down the field early and being aggressive. Okay, we had the interception, down the near sideline, early in the game. Thought our defense did a good job responding to that first off and ended up turning that into points for us. But offensively, the message was stay aggressive. Keep pushing them all down the field. And that's something we've got to do as an offense as a whole. Whether it's Daniel, Mike, Jake, whoever ends up being, we got to do a good job of pushing the ball down the field and giving our guys a chance to make plays.
What happened at the in that sequence at the end of the third quarter where you guys called a timeout and then there was a delay of game a couple plays later. What was the thought process behind that timeout, and then I guess what happened on the...
Well, it was second long right there. I want to make sure they gave ourselves the best chance of staying out of third and long. Obviously, they made a play. So that was just what happened right there.
Fourth and 2 from their 46, yeah. I think it was late in the third quarter. I guess why punt in that situation?
We had I think it was three straight 3-and-outs at that point. Defense was really playing well. That was a spot right there that I felt that, points were really at a premium in that game. We didn't want to give them a short field. We want to make sure that if they had to be on offense, they'd take a long field. So as far as punting the ball down there, using the position, trusting our defense to get the ball back, if we play to it and we execute the plays, we're probably going to get the ball back somewhere around midfield. Maybe lose about 15 to 20 yards in the initial starting point, but if we can play to it, we got to do that. Obviously, we don't want to have the result we had on that play and give them the ball at the 20-yard line. But in terms of thinking of it, look, we're not afraid to play to our defense. So when we get the opportunity there to say, hey, let's punt the ball down there and pin them, we got to take advantage of those opportunities. And we had some early in the game. Look, our coverage units are playing really well right now. I'm very encouraged by the coverage we're getting from the interior guys on punt. Some of the plays we're making from the outside with Keon and those guys, in the punts as well as the gunner position. Their kickoffs playing really well. I don't think they got to the 20-yard line or anything. That was a focus for us all week of covering kicks, being aggressive and physical, making them have longer fields. So every chance we had the opportunity to pin them back, that was part of the game plan. That was a focus.
Joe, you talked about the things you're encouraged by on offense. Ultimately, though, 9 points and 250 yards. So people are going to look at that and say, like, how can you be encouraged when the results just weren't there?
I saw a lot of players make a lot of big plays, and that's what we got to do. We got to get the ball in our players' hands, let them make plays, let them extend plays, and be explosive players. And that's our focus as a team. So that's what we're looking to do. We're going to play to the players, play to their strengths. Saw a lot of things today that really got the players involved. There are a lot of third and longs that we converted with a lot of players making big plays. Thought Freddie did a good job calling things aggressively and pushing it down the field. Thought Mike really had the right mindset in how he wanted to play that thing. And there was opportunities for catch and runs. We got the thing out and did that. But then also, pushing down the field. You saw Kenny make some big catches. Evan make some big catches. These are some things that turn around, and you've got to make these plays and be able to make these plays in critical situations and in tough games. We knew it was going to be a lot of tight contested catch today. It's a very well-coached defense. They play very aggressive, very tight on you. So through the week, we talked a lot to our players about you got to defend your leverage, come out of the breaks, and you got to make those tight catches. And I was pleased to see our guys come up with a number of those today.
Joe Diehl doesn't play next week. Is Mike definitely your starter?
Yes. Yeah, I would say at this point, yes.
With the injury to Kenny, did it happen on the play that was near out of bounds when the defender was trying to punch the ball away from him?
I believe it was on the catch he had going across the middle where he caught that high ball right there. It was near after that when he came off, from what I understand. And then he came in at halftime, was able to return, and then towards the end of the game he couldn't. But Kenny, look, he plays a lot of toughness and competitiveness. And when he's out there, he obviously makes plays for us. So, Kenny's a guy that, we talk about all the time of, like, look, it may look covered at some points with other receivers, but when that's 19, don't be afraid to feed it to him.
Mike seemed to have a pretty good rhythm with him in the first half there. Did the rib injury affect Kenny, do you think, in the second half? Because obviously he didn't have anything going in the second half.
I don't want to comment on that just at this moment right now. Yeah.
Anything else?
Some of those coverage breakdowns, I guess the 2 touchdowns, what happened there? It just seemed like guys weren't on the same page.
Let me look at the tape before I go ahead and break down everything. Obviously, there's some things that didn't go exactly to plan right there, so we'll talk it on through as schematically and making sure we're in the right position.
You alluded to at the end of last week. I think there was a little bit of uncertainty about what would be next for Daniel in terms of his next checkup. Sorry, my voice. What's tomorrow going to hold for him in terms of his checkup?
Well, all of our players will have that, day after game checkups with all the doctors. Daniel will be no different than that. He'll check with the doctors tomorrow and continue through the progression. They'll continue to evaluate him, and when they deem that he's ready to return for contact and play full, then we'll have him out there playing.
Is there anything new to report from you about his status?
No, there's really no change from what we talked on Friday. He's just going to continue being evaluated with the doctors and see where it goes. And again, we got to trust what they say. We're not going to put any of our players in a position where they go out there and they're at risk. There's a difference. I tell you guys all the time. I'm going to ask, the question of, is it pain management or is it injury risk? When it's injury risk, that's not on my plate. And when it's pain management, the players know, to what level can they perform. We got a lot of guys that are tough guys. I don't really have to question too many of our guys' toughness. All right, but, can they perform at the level through that pain management? Daniel's a guy that, has been chomping a bit to get back out there. We want to make sure the doctors, give us the clearest picture of what his health and status is and what he's safe to do and go on the field. When he's ready to go, we'll put him out there.
So are you comfortable with the reps that Mike got in practices this week?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought the way we worked this week in terms of getting Mike prepared and having Jake prepared and keeping Daniel moving, I thought that was the right way to do it. Yeah.
You pointed out some of the things you saw that you liked, but when the production isn't there, what is the balance for you as a head coach where, it's not tolerable because you're scoring so few amount of points and so few touchdowns. I mean, kind of what's that balance in terms of trying to be positive about some of the things you saw, but the plays that just weren't completed, so to speak, you know?
Just look, like any other week, I'm going to go through this tape. You know, we get on this plane and start flying over, Arizona. I'm going to dissect everything about this game. First thing I watch is the kicking game, then I go to the offense, then I go to the defense, just the natural of how I work on through the day. All right, and I'm going to go through everything. I'm going to look at everything, first schematically. And I'm going to break down everything, what did we do in each situation, where we sound, where were the breakdowns, what are the things we've got to correct from a schematic standpoint. Then I'm going to go back and watch it again, personnel-based. Okay, I know what the breakdowns schematically are. Are we asking someone to do something they can't do? Is someone not performing to the level we're asking them to? Is there something we need to do something different with a certain person or put another player in that role? And I'll break it on down. But I saw a lot of players go out there today and compete. I thought our defense and kicking game, really made a lot of big plays. Our offense came up with some critical plays at tough times. We knew it was going to be a 60-minute type game. We knew it was going to be a very challenging defense to go against. You play against this team, you understand, just the elements of pressure of what that does to an offense, and you've got to be able to play through it. I thought for a large part we did a really good job at certain points in the game of playing through that pressure, neutralizing it, making some plays, and giving ourselves a chance down the field. That being said, we got to continue looking and saying, okay, with our players, we had some opportunities to make some plays. What do we have to keep doing with those personnel moves and schematically? What do we have to build on within those deals? And then what do we have to go ahead and pull back and maybe change course of some other things right there? But there are a lot of players I saw make a lot of plays. I'm continuing to be encouraged by, seeing the opportunities for players to go out there and make plays. And that's what it is. I've told you guys before, I see the game through the standpoint of letting your players go out there and play the game. That's our job. Facilitate the players, put them in position. I'm very encouraged by a lot of things our players in all three phases are doing. Okay, I'm very critical of our players. I'm very hard on them. But that's because I have a lot of confidence in them, and I trust that they have the ability to do what we're asking them to go out there and execute. So I just got to make sure that we put them in the right positions, and that when the opportunity comes their way, they can make the plays, and that they are making the plays.
One more.
Joe, you went Bredesen at left guard for Skura in that situation. Was that just a decision you made? Was there an injury with Skura?
No, we just want to roll them on through, and that was something we talked about through the week. Make sure we get Ben involved throughout the game at some point, and the offense kind of just communicate with me at some point. We're going to kind of roll some different guys on through. I tell them all the time, look, I expect everybody to play, so let's just keep on moving and roll them on through it there.
All right. Thanks, Johnny.
All right, guys, appreciate it. Travel safe.
That sound from head coach Joe Judge was brought to you by Ford. First, a point of clarification. You heard him mention going out to Arizona next week. Of course, the Giants' next opponent is the Chargers, but they will be flying to Arizona to practice for the week in Tucson to get acclimated to that West Coast time zone before going to L.A. to face the Chargers next Sunday. But, Amani, when we were listening to this, your ears perked up when Judge mentioned Blitz Zero. What is your reaction there?
Well, if you're a receiver and you see Blitz Zero, it's almost like disrespectful because they're basically saying, we can just put one person on you and you're not going to make a play down the field. So, they're just discrediting your ability as a receiver to make a play and change the game. Because when you see Blitz Zero, it's an opportunity not only to get a first down, but to get a touchdown. Blitz Zero there's more big plays made on Blitz Zero because Blitz Zero means there's no safety in the middle of the field. So all you have to do is beat the person over you and catch a ball, get down the field, and there's nobody there to tackle you. So it's such an opportunity, and I used to love it when I saw Blitz Zero because that's when your ears perk up and you're like, oh, I'm gonna make a big play right now. And the fact that there was Blitz Zero, they knew about it before, and they weren't able to capitalize on it shows you. I know they're injured in the receiving corps, but they don't have the players to take advantage of it on the outside.
And I've got to get this off of my chest. I love the fact that Joe Judge protects his players, stands up for them, and takes accountability. But in this moment right now, I want to see a pissed off Joe Judge. To sit here and to say that you looked at your offense and they made progress, well, it's 10-6 in the third quarter. Your defense just forced 4 straight punts. You give up a sack on first down, have to utilize a timeout on second down because you're about to get a delay of game, take another sack on second down, get to third down, then you get another delay of game. It was just one thing after another to where we're sitting here looking at it saying, okay, Jason Garrett wasn't the problem. Now it's going to move on. We have to move forward to Freddie Kitchens. And now we're having the same operational problems at the line of scrimmage and substituting from the sideline. I want to see Joe Judge come out and pissed off and talk about making progress because right now I love the fact that he's defending the players. We're not seeing it as fans. We're not seeing it as Giants alumni right now.
Yeah, it's tough. They haven't had a touchdown scored by a wide receiver or a running back since October. Not something you want to see on the offensive side of the ball. All right, we got a lot more coming up after the break. We're going to hear from Mike Glennon, that and much more as Giants Postgame Live presented by Mercedes-Benz continues after this short break. Today's matchup between the Giants and Dolphins is presented by Panini, the licensed trading card partner of the New York Giants. Welcome back to Giants Postgame Live, presented by Mercedes-Benz. As we take a look at the quarterback comparison from today's game, Mike Glennon, of course, getting the start with Daniel Jones out with the neck injury, compared to Tua Tagovailoa's stats, as Tua's been kind of leading these Dolphins on a hot streak, winning 5 straight for Miami. What do you make of this information here?
I'm looking at the 73% completion and the 0 interceptions for Tua. And those two things right there, I don't care about anything else. The 2 touchdowns, no interceptions for Tua, I mean, was in a close game, tight fought when it's a field position battle. The least of the turnover battle, if you win the turnover battle, the percentage of you winning is great. And if you win it by 2, it's even more. So it's the situation that I'm looking at, that quarterback battle. The most thing I'm looking at is the fact that, we turned the ball over. And Gannon and Glennon did not have a very accurate day.
And when you look at Tua, it wasn't outside of the pocket. Everything was just in the pocket, pressing, stepping up, sliding a little bit to the left. But the one thing that you look at when you look at this Miami Dolphins offense, it reminds me a lot of 2018 Jared Goff early in his career with Sean McVay. Wilson, Waddle, they're going to use the jet sweeps, the reverses. They're going to spread you out laterally. Then they're going to work the interior run game, work the intermediate passing game with Mike Gesicki. And that's where right now with Tua, even though people say, well, he's only a game manager. Well, he's playing complementary football to their defense, and that's why they're winning football games right now.
Game managers win games.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and it's got to be tough, too. Of course, Glennon did not get officially announced as the starter until Friday. Didn't get all the first-team reps, as Amani, you mentioned earlier in the program. But now we're going to send it down to Miami to hear from a member of the Giants defense as James Bradbury addresses the media.
You take us through the 2 touchdowns. It seemed like there was some breakdowns in coverage on both of those.
Yeah, so on the first one, we really didn't have a breakdown of coverage on either one of the touchdowns. The play just kind of went longer than expected, and he was able to find the open target. The first one? Yeah.
The both went to the flat and the guy went to the corner.
That's what I was supposed to be.
What makes it so difficult to deal with their short passing game where they're just kind of grinding out these long drives? How do you counter that?
I think Tua does a good job of reading it, and he's also a very accurate passer. He has a quick release too, so quick game just kind of goes hand in hand with like some of his strengths. So I think that's what makes it tough to defend it.
James, is there, when the offense is struggling like it is it a little bit more pressure on you guys to kind of keep these guys out? And what added strain does that become when they're kind of scuffling a little bit on the other side?
I mean, I think it's just pressure going out there and playing in general. So I try not to get too caught up in what the other side of the ball is doing. I know my job is to go out there and defend every blade of grass out there and defend them from scoring touchdowns. So that's my approach every time I go on the field, stop them from scoring.
So what would you say is the mood of this team now as you head towards this last part of the season and your record is where it is?
We got to win next Sunday. That's our mood.
What do you think about this week of being together, on the road practicing? Do you think this will be a good thing, aside from the football end, just also to be together for this week?
Yeah, I think it'll definitely help with the chemistry throughout the team. But anytime, we can spend time with each other and talk football, just talk life, it's going to bring us together. So that's the one thing about this trip that's positive.
James, you guys have known about this trip, I would imagine, for a while. How unique is it to be taking a week like this, going to a college campus and doing it? And how do you approach it, I guess, as a team or even individually? How are you looking at it?
So, of course, like you said, we knew about this trip. So, you want to hang out with your teammates, get to know your teammates more, build that chemistry, because, of course, there's some new pieces on the defense. But then again, you got to make sure you take care of your body, too, because you're away from your what you're used to, from your routine. So you want to make sure, when you're away, that you try to find ways to take care of your body, however that is. I think that's the biggest thing for me as a vet, going away from New York or your home, is just building a routine and making sure you stay on top of your body.
James, you guys on defense have had to.
That sound from James Bradbury is brought to you by Ford. We're getting news right now that Mike Glennon does have a concussion. So if Daniel Jones is not cleared, it could be Jake Fromm at quarterback next week. Jake Fromm, who just 2 weeks ago was on the Bills practice squad, signed with the Giants this week with Daniel Jones' injury issues, and now might be the QB1 for this team.
Yeah, obviously we'll have to see how everything works out with Daniel Jones in his neck. We obviously saw that he came out, was limited last week, but didn't want to risk it and wasn't ready. But when you truly think about now going on the road, playing up against the Los Angeles Chargers, who just got a huge win on the road in Cincinnati, that's where now at least it happened early, where you have a full week of preparation for this football team. But to sit here and say that the Giants are putting their best foot forward, going to their third quarterback in an area where they're struggling and not getting the substitutions and the communication and the receivers all on the same page, going to another quarterback is not going to help that solution.
Yeah, and I just want to know when he got the concussion, because Howard was talking about early on he was 8 for 8. Then he said he started looking like Howard looks when he wakes up in the morning before a shower. It's kind of, you know, when did this happen? And could he have come out earlier? Maybe they could have put Fromm in, and I just don't know what happened. There's a lot of questions that I would ask. When did this happen? And just to figure out, you know, could we have had more of an opportunity to win the game?
Well, and as you know, too, with a concussion, it does take time sometimes to develop the symptoms and what have you. All right, we've got a lot more coming up on the program. After the break, we're going to hear from wide receiver Kenny Golladay and more as Giants Postgame Live, presented by Mercedes-Benz, the official luxury automobile of the Giants, continues. Hey there, Big Blue fans. In this week's Giants Postgame Live Watch and Win sweepstakes, one lucky fan can score an autographed football signed by wide receiver Kenny Golladay. Enter now by scanning the QR code on the screen or by going directly to msgnetworks.com to sign up. And don't forget to include this week's keyword, play action. All one word, play action. Sign up now before it's too late. And good luck. Win that football signed by Kenny Golladay over there as we send it down to Miami to hear from the wide receiver himself.
Coach said he saw a lot of positive signs on offense despite the lack of a touchdown. Do you feel that way? Do you see, were there things from this game that you saw as positives?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like, you know, we were moving the ball, you know, well. At the end of the day, you know, we just didn't, you know, execute the way we needed to. They was able to, you know, blitz us a little bit, and, you know, we just got to do a better job as offense as a whole.
You have a quarterback next week who you just met last week. You know, Mike's got a concussion, Daniel's got a neck issue. You know, what can this offense do with Jake if he's there?
You know, get a good week of preparation, and I'm pretty sure he'll get the job done.
Points and 250 yards. I mean, you guys are putting out like 260, 270, 300 yards a week. I mean, it's bottom level NFL offense stuff. How tired are you of just not producing as an offense?
I mean, yeah, it's frustrating. The only thing we can do is just, you know, go back to work, and, you know, luckily we have another game, you know, next week.
That sound from wide receiver Kenny Golladay was brought to you by Ford. We've got a lot more coming up on the program. After the break, we're going to hear from running back Saquon Barkley. That and much more as Giants Postgame Live, presented by Mercedes-Benz, continues after this.
Saquon, can you speak to how frustrating this stretch is offensively here with the 9 points today and last week?
Yeah, 9 points is not acceptable. We got to be better. We got to capitalize on opportunities. We got to be better whole, starting with myself.
It seemed like they were determined to stop the run as their first priority on defense. Did you feel that early on, that was the way it was going to be?
I mean, in the last 7 to 8 games, our main games, they've been on that streak and that stretch. They've been number 1 run defense in the league. They're top 10 run defense in the league. And they did a good job today.
Saquon, you guys are probably going to have to play with Jake next week at quarterback because Mike has a concussion. So you look at it and look at the production you guys have had.
Wait, who has a concussion?
Mike Glennon. Sorry, has a concussion.
They just told me he was being checked.
He has a concussion, okay. So they just announced it. Sorry. Yeah. So if you guys, you know, you did what you did today offensively, and now you're going to have a guy next week who's never played in a regular season game, so people would look at it and say, how the heck can you expect to do anything better?
There's got to have next man up mentality, and no matter if it's Mike or if it's DJ or or it was Jake. When the opportunities are there, the plays that need to be made, and we didn't do that today, no matter who was at quarterback.
That sound from Saquon Barkley was brought to you by Ford. Next man up has been all too common a theme for this Giants team this year.
It most certainly has, and obviously Saquon's still getting his legs and his feet underneath him, but it's hard to run when there's no holes here, and you have to revert back to your old ways and try bouncing it out to the outside and get as many chunk yards as possible. But I love his demeanor, because that's the demeanor you should have after a loss like this one.
Yeah, this was a gut-wrenching loss. This was a demoralizing loss, because not only did you get beat on the field, but you got beat schematically, and you got beat. You got beat in more than one way. You got beat mentally, and you got beat physically, and it was demoralizing. That's appropriate action.
And that's not what you want to see on the football field. All right, we're going to wrap it up after this short break. Stay with us as we close out Giants Postgame Live. We'll be back in just a few moments. Hey Giants fans, check out the Eli Manning Show presented by Dunkin'. All you have to do is subscribe to the Giants YouTube channel to catch the latest episodes and all of the Eli extras. Another great episode this week starring Brooklyn Nets forward Kevin Durant. Look at this, Kevin Durant coming in. He meets Eli Manning, catches a nice little touchdown pass. I think this is a solid route running skill. Look at those hands on KD too. Giving a little shout out to the quarterback. Make sure to subscribe to the Giants YouTube channel and see who won this game of Pop a Shot. New episode airs on Thursday. Welcome back to the program. Guys, we've got another game getting ready for this next week. The Giants are headed out to the West Coast. They're going to be practicing in Arizona as they prepare to face the Chargers next Sunday in Los Angeles, 4:05 p.m. at SoFi Stadium, Giants at Chargers. But I'm curious, too, because usually teams will stay on the West Coast, but going to the West Coast a week early to acclimate, what can they expect as a team to kind of come together in that space?
Well, obviously, it's just you guys together. It's almost like that training camp when you used to go away to training camp in that field. So you're going to be to get together. You're going to be able to go to dinners. You're going to be in the hotel, and that will get some semblance of what you need to do technique-wise, fundamentally-wise, to get ready for the LA Chargers, because the LA Chargers are coming off of a game where they had 4 takeaways up against the Cincinnati Bengals. They had 6 sacks on Joe Burrow and are playing efficiently on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, one thing that they have to realize, they're not going to be able to get their massages. They're not going to be normal. It's going to be much more difficult for them to recover, and that's going to be one of the things that they're going to have to try to overcome.
Well, and as a team, too, I think you get closest on the road, right?
Yeah,
sometimes.
So much more time. You know, you're not going home to your family and all that. Chargers, though, as you mentioned earlier in the show, coming off a huge win. This will be a challenge for this Giants team. Quickly, what's the point of emphasis this week?
My point of emphasis is the X's and O's. Know your game plan down cold so that you walk away from this next game up against the Chargers without any regrets, thinking that you needed to study or work out more.
Toom?
And compete. Being able to compete.
Got to compete. Always. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Giants Postgame Live. Thanks for hanging with us today. For David and Amani, I'm Madeline. We'll see you next week.